We're going to start at 10:23, so you got 2 minutes. Try and get down the focus question. Wait for a couple more people to get in here. Did I post the YouTube video yesterday's lesson? I should have. Let me see. Maybe I forgot to. I don't think I did. Oh no, it's up there. Lesson 7, Regents, Enlightenment. So I know you. I think you were having the internet issues maybe yesterday. So yeah, it's 51 minutes long because it's really only 20 minutes. Bad teacher moment. I forgot to stop recording, so it's just 30 minutes of me just sitting there answering questions. But that's on me. So it's really just a 20-minute video. So you could watch that. So sorry about that. 1 minute we'll start, just if you're coming in late. Why are you so tall in person? I ate my vegetables when I was a kid, and you guys can too. A lot of broccoli. I'm really not that tall. 6'1". I mean, like, I'm tall, but like, put me next to an NBA player. I mean, I'm not that tall. I mean, yeah, it's definitely tall, but it's like not that tall. I got so many tabs open. Give me a second, guys. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of that. That is get rid of that. Notes you don't have to turn in today. So basically any day that you don't have it, but I can't say this enough. If you don't have to turn in the notes, I can't preach enough how important it is to still take the notes. You're having your first quiz, which I'm going to officially announce tomorrow, but I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. Your first quiz is going to be Tuesday of next week. If you have to do the notes, how do I put it? If you don't have your notes and something to look back to, it's really a nightmare. So please make sure you're taking good notes. The notes are almost important, are almost more important than the actual assignments that you do, as weird as that sounds, because the notes will help you a lot more on the test than a reading assignment would. I'm not saying the reading assignments aren't important, just I know how my tests and everything look, so just keep that in mind. All right, I'm a little late starting here, but that's simply because I'm trying to close some tabs here. I got way too much crap open. I can barely concentrate. Close that. Close that. Okay, so let's get started. At this point in time, you should be copying down the focus question. The rule of thumb for today is copy down everything that's in red. There are 4 slides. There is a bunch. The 3rd and 4th slides are by far the most important, though. So if you miss something for the first 2 slides, really not the end of the world. We are now going to take the combination of Friday's lesson, where we got to some of the first violence of the Civil War. Civil War, Jesus, that's bad. The Revolutionary War, with the shot heard around the world. And then we are going to go into look at how the Enlightenment and those ideas all lead into this Declaration of Independence. So the focus question is, what are the major purposes? Because there's multiple, it's not just one major purpose. In 7th grade, you needed to know the major purpose. In 11th grade, you need to know the purposes of the Declaration of Independence. Okay, the very basics of the Declaration of Independence, which we really don't need to know for the Regents, this is kind of expected, is that this is our Declaration of Independence from Great Britain. So what that means is we need to establish that our particular country or our colony no longer wants to be in control of controlled by Great Britain. So the way you do that is you have to declare your independence. Okay, you have to write it down and basically sign that you no longer want to be a part of this country. Very rarely countries, like mother countries, will be okay with that. But usually to fully get your independence, you need to fight a war to win it. Okay, and that's kind of what's going on here. So these are in response to the intolerable acts. We're going to start with step 1, We're going to, before we declare independence, we're going to try and solve some problems peacefully before we just come out and say we can no longer deal with Great Britain. And we're going to look at the 4-step process leading to the Declaration of Independence. So this is step 1. This happens in 1774 after the Intolerable Act. So just going back, you have the Boston Tea Party. Great Britain is then going to impose this law that's going to limit the freedoms of the colonists. In response, we're going to send a Declaration of Rights. It's going to be like just a piece of paper, jotting down what our rights are as colonists, how you can't be doing this, and how you need to take away the taxes. Essentially, King George is going to read it and disregard it. He's not going to stop any taxes. He's not going to change anything that in any way that he's dealing with the colonies. Okay, so this is step 1. Before we get to the Declaration of Independence, we're now going to get to step 2. Step 2 is something called the Olive Branch Petition. All right. Now, for those that don't know, and I assume many don't because it's not something an 8th grader usually knows, and if someone extends an olive branch, it's a sign of peace. So this was drafted after the shot heard around the world. We just had the violence take place in Lexington and Concord. And the Founding Fathers said, okay, before we go out to war here, maybe let's just take a second, try and get back to peace and try and work things out peacefully with Great Britain again before we get to a war. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work. So the Olive Branch Petition was similar to the Declaration of Rights. It told King George that the colonists will still be loyal to Britain. There's still, KG3 is still our king. He's still the leader for us, but we just need a couple things changed so we don't have this all-out war. So again, the colonists are going to demand that he get rid of all the taxes, get rid of the tea tax, get rid of all the laws like the Quartering Act, the Intolerable Act, the Writs of Assistance, get rid of them all, and also just get rid of some soldiers from the colonies because there's too many soldiers around and we want more freedom. King George III will essentially tell the colonists to get lost. He responds back and basically says to the colonists, we're not going to do this. You need to be obedient of the king. And he actually, historians say he refused to read the petition. Like he doesn't even know what the petition said. He just wrote back saying that he's not going to listen to this garbage, so to speak. And he said to the patriots, he said to the Founding Fathers that they're committing treason. Now, for those that don't know, treason is one of the highest crimes you can commit in any country. It's basically a word that says you're betraying your country. And pretty much anyone that betrays their country is going to be hanged. So this is a very serious accusation that the king is saying. All right? So now we have that tough decision, and we now have to go along with the people of the country, right? Yeah, treason results in death, for sure. Okay? So now we need to figure out whether you're a patriot or a loyalist, do you support independence from Great Britain? Because right now what the King of Great Britain is saying is if you are supportive of independence, you are being treasonous to the British government and you could be killed for that. So this is a very tough thing. You'd imagine many of the loyalists would be loyal to King George and would not want to declare independence, but many of the patriots wanted our country to no longer be the 13 colonies. We wanted to turn into a country that is on our own, independent from King George III. So a huge influence of that, and this is a really major slide that's going to come up on your Regents a bunch, not just multiple choice, but definitely things that come up on essays. And this is a book called Step 3. Just called Common Sense. You need to copy everything down here. All right, I'll give you some time. I'll check in with you guys, see if you need some more time to copy this down, but please stay on top of this. This is step 3. Thomas Paine is going to write a book called Common Sense. And the title of the book is really important for what the book is trying to let the colonists know about. All right, so this is Thomas Paine right here. And the huge reason why this comes up on the Regents a bunch is for a couple of reasons. One, it's very important in American history. 2, it was one of the most famous books in American history. But 3, you are taking a New York State test. Thomas Paine wrote the book and lived in New Rochelle, New York, which for those that don't know is about 10 minutes north of here, very close in Westchester. So since he wrote the book and since it's written in New York, it's a very big thing that comes up on the New York State Regents. All right. So first, let's start with the title. The title is really important. He titled it Common Sense. And for those that know what common sense is, it's basically things that you should just know just from living in the world. Okay, you don't have to be taught it. It's just something that's inherently figured out on its own, right? So when you approach a door and it's closed, you know to turn the knob and open it. Okay, if you're just walking into the door without turning the knob, that means you have no common sense. You may have never been explicitly taught you need to turn this knob to open the door, but if you're just walking into a door and not figuring out how to open it, you have no common sense, okay, in that regard. So common sense is something that is just naturally a part of your knowledge. You're not necessarily even taught it. It's just naturally living in this world is common to what you should know. So the term is common sense. So he titled the book that to let everyone know that everyone should realize that we should declare independence from Great Britain. All right. So this book, for the people that could read, was a best-selling novel. For the people that couldn't read, and there was a good chunk of people that couldn't read at the time, they would go to taverns, they would go to town halls, they would go to meetings, and this book would actually be read aloud, and it would actually highlight the reasons why King George and why Great Britain is not fit to lead the colonists. Now, this is a book in college that I had to read. It's long, it's pretty boring. We're not going to waste our time reading it. And I could summarize it in a couple of words. All right? And it really is this part of the slide here. This book spelled out the advantages in very simple language why the colonists needed to break away from Great Britain. You know, so the book's going to talk about the proclamation line of 1763 and how it's limiting people's freedom. It's going to talk about mercantilism. It's going to talk about the Quartering Act. It's going to talk about how King George III is not giving anyone any representation. A big part of the book is going to talk about how Great Britain is thousands of miles away. How could they govern something so far away from the colonies, from the actual colonies? So understand, ladies and gentlemen, that this particular book was not only very well written, it was very influential in changing a lot of people's opinion. Now, if you are a hardcore loyalist, if you are hardcore to King George III and you are not going to change your mind, this book's not changing your mind. But if you are on the fence and you are maybe not sure, you're like, should I support independence? Should we be independent from Great Britain? This book was very influential in inspiring colonists to change their mind. All right? So everyone in the chat, anyone in the chat right now, if you need more time, please write more time or yes or something to let me know that you need more time. But I'm going to give everyone another 30 more seconds, and we're going to move on. We're going to do 2 practice Regents questions. Okay, I'll give everyone a little bit more time. We'll go from there. I also just want to mention, I guess this would be a good time to mention, this is a 2-day lesson. So what I mean is you will not actually have to turn in anything today. We're going to do half of the assignment today. We're going to finish it up tomorrow. And then you'll have another little assignment as well. But this does not have to be turned in tomorrow until tomorrow. If you're turning in something today, you've done something wrong. Okay, because this should not be turned in. You should not finish the assignment today, and I'm not going to give it for homework. All right? Madison, let me know when you're good. Thank you, Madison. Okay. So here are the 2 practice Regents questions. Usual type of stuff. If you know the answer, you want to write it in the chat, please let me know. If you are unsure of the answer, then you could just not say anything. It's okay. I mean, like when someone writes the answer is because it's always seemed to be number 2, right? When someone says the answer, you don't have to type it in to get credit. Just if you know the answer and understand it, write it down so I could say. So the first question's in black, dealing with common sense. During the Revolutionary War period, Thomas Paine's common sense was important because it what? Was it one, described a military plan for the defeat of England? Two, convinced many Americans who had been undecided to support independence? Three, contained a detailed outline for a new form of government? And four, argued for the addition of a Bill of Rights to the Constitution. Yeah, it's two. Again, I don't really know why. It just keeps happening. But maybe this one won't be. All right, the next one. Excellent. You guys are good. The pamphlet, which is a really fancy word for book. Okay, it's just like a series of written articles, but whatever. The pamphlet of common sense, written by Thomas Paine, aided the American cause in the Revolutionary War because it what? Four is correct. Excellent. Very similar type of answer. What you need to understand is when the shot heard around the world happens, we actually go into fighting. So you're going to learn tomorrow the Battle of Bunker Hill. You're going to learn some of these early battles. Some people are unsure if they want to be a part of this group. Okay. Yes. No spamming. Thank you. Okay. Just write it once and move on with life. All right. We have one more slide. I don't know why I changed it to the color blue, but I changed it to the color blue. It's one of those things. So I'm going to change that to red so we don't confuse the smart individuals of what to copy down. This is the last slide before we get into our assignment. Okay. So step 4 is now the Declaration of Independence. So there's a span of about a year from the shot heard around the world to the Declaration of Independence. And within that time, the most influential thing is common sense. You get a lot of people and a lot of founding fathers, some of our leaders, some of our representatives in the Continental Congress really saying, you know what? We need to make this official. We need to make it known that we are now not just fighting against Great Britain. We are fighting for our independence. And this is a huge, huge moment in American history. So the Declaration of Independence is obviously one of the biggest documents. Okay. Now we're going to really try and dive in and learn it inside and out as much as possible. But essentially what you're going to look at is what the Declaration of Independence is. So step 4 was signed on July 4th, 1776, though you secretly learned it was July 2nd, 1776, but we'll wait for that a little bit. So the colonists decide that they're going to officially declare their independence from Great Britain. And the way they're going to do this is they're going to write on a piece of paper, written mostly by Thomas Jefferson, though people like John Adams and Ben Franklin had a huge influence. Thomas Jefferson's going to write it. He's going to speak on a lot of the ideas that we talked about from John Locke yesterday in his explanation on why we want to be free from British rule. All right? They're going to send this declaration to the king and let them know that this is not now up for debate. We are now going to fight for our independence from Great Britain. All right? And you'll see the British response really tomorrow, but this is our explanation. We almost don't care what the king says at this point in time because according to the colonists, according to the founding fathers, we're no longer listening to the king. He has nothing to do with us. Okay? Now, obviously, Britain's not going to just let the colonists just say, okay, you know, that's fine. If you want to be independent, that's good. All right, most of the times to declare independence, you're going to have to fight a war to do it. And this is one of those situations. Okay? So I'm going to just give a general photo of what the Declaration of Independence looks like. I think it's just kind of important. While that's happening, you guys could open the Google document. All right, I'll explain how to do that shortly. I'm going to give everyone a little more time just to finish it up, though. All right, so I'm going to share this tab now. I think it's actually not sharing the tab I want. Okay, well, hold on one second. I could fix that, no problem. So if you're opening up your Google Classroom and you see the assignment that I posted, what we're essentially going to do is we're going to take this declaration, which you're looking at right about now, okay, on the right side of the screen here. This is what the Declaration of Independence looks like, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take the 8 biggest and most important, not biggest, most important parts of the Declaration of Independence. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this at you. You're going to try and summarize a lot of it in your own words. It's going to be a little bit of a mess. Then tomorrow we're going to re-clarify and re-go over everything so we're really on the same page, okay? So this unanimous declaration of the United States of America, you're going to have all of it written down. This was written by Thomas Jefferson. It's going to be signed by a lot of the delegates that were at Philadelphia at the time. And this is going to be our explanation of why we want to basically declare independence from Great Britain. And we'll go into it here. All right. So with that being said, now we're going to go to the Google Classroom, which I have to pull up here. And the Google Classroom is going to have, why do I have 2 people turned it in? These guys are killing me. All right. We're going to look at the actual text from the Declaration of Independence, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and put it into our own words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first 2 parts with you. Then you're going to do 3 and 4, and then that's it. Okay, I don't know. Oh, did yours come out like this? This would be horrible. If it came out like this, you just need to hit enter once, and it should just be better. Okay, but hopefully that didn't happen like that. Hopefully yours guys is fine. All right. Please let me know if there's any problems the way it looks on yours. It should be all of these on the left here and then the boxes on the right that you can write in. Okay, good. So what we'll do is I'm going to do the first 1 or 2 as a read aloud. So I want you to get into my brain how I'm going to break down this actual text, because some of this writing is very well said, but said in such a complicated way that it's very tough to follow. It's written in 18th century English. It's written very sophisticatedly, so sometimes it's very tough to figure out what is going on. But the important thing you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is when you actually break down what is being said, it is extremely impactful. It goes beyond just the meaning of, yeah, we just want to break apart from Great Britain, and here's why. It actually establishes the foundation of our government. Yeah, their English was very, very fancy. And even at times, there's some things that I don't understand, but I've had a lot more practice than you guys. So let's start with the first one. And this is how the Declaration of Independence breaks down. Okay? So it starts, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another. So there's 2 words I want you to focus in on: dissolve and political bands. Okay? What does dissolve mean? Okay, I'll give you a second to write that in the chat because it's important. What does it mean to dissolve something? Because you guys are going to be in Regents science. That's a word you definitely need to know. Well, actually, maybe not. You guys do living environment. It's maybe more of a chemistry thing. Yeah, excellent. Dissolve means to disappear. All right. So I'm going to start it just like this. Throughout history, because I don't want to read the whole thing and then be like, what the hell did I just read? I would like to break it down. Throughout history, they went in the course of human events. Throughout history, it becomes necessary to, I'm going to say, get rid of at this point. Instead of disappear or break down, because you are correct, but let's go with get rid of. Throughout history, it becomes necessary to get rid of the political bands. Whenever you see political, you should think of another word that is more straightforward. Does anyone know what that word is? It starts with a G. What is another word for political? Excellent, government. Anytime you see political, you need to think government, because they're very, very similar. Throughout history, it becomes necessary to get rid of government to get rid of governments that run them. Now here's the $1,000,000 question. I'll be very impressed. Where did Jefferson, who wrote this, get this wild idea from? Where did Thomas Jefferson get this crazy idea that it may be necessary to get rid of governments that aren't acting on their behalf? Excellent, John Locke. Let's go even further. In the chat, what was the name of John Locke's thought when it came to this idea of overthrowing government? John Locke, yesterday we went into not natural rights, Gentiana, good thought. That will be in point 2. That is a social contract theory, okay? Excellent. That's okay, no problem. So it goes on, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. So what that means is that the leaders and the ones that make the laws for us, okay, basically should be followed correctly. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So really just the first part of the sentence is the most important. So all I want you to put here is John Locke's, in parentheses, to remind you, social contract theory. And if you're going back to the PowerPoint from a few days ago, yesterday, okay? The social contract theory in green is an unwritten contract that the people are responsible for making sure their government is governing justly and fairly. If they're not, they need to do something about it. This is Jefferson saying, this is why we're doing something about it, because King George III has not ruled us fairly, has not ruled us justly. Okay? So now I got a million tabs open. There we go. So that is, okay, the next part. Now you guys can see my face, right? The next part, part 2, is by far the most important thing. Okay, and even as a history teacher, I don't have to look. You guys can see my eyes are closed. I don't even have to look at the text to remember what it says because it is so impactful even still today in 2020. So look at me read it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They're endowed with their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, this is in the point in class where you give me a rounding standing applause because I just quoted something from the Declaration of Independence, all right? But it is such an impactful line that as you guys get older, it's not because I'm a social studies teacher. It's really not. When you get older, you will start to realize how important that line actually is. Yes, I love the respect I'm getting, but it is an important line. So let's really break it down, and then you're going to do the last 2 of these on your own. All right. We hold these truths to be self-evident. So self-evident is another word for being obvious. So it is obvious, we stop, that all men are created equal. Now this is the controversial line. If you take it at face value, meaning that all men are created equal, it's not a great line. But if you understand back in the 1700s that the word men took precedent over women in English language. So when you say all men, you really mean everyone, all people. So some people see it as, well, women aren't included here. You know, African-American slaves aren't included here. And there is some truth to that. But the fact of the reality is the real message of the Declaration of Independence has to do with the men part, meaning everyone. Okay, like Mother Nature does not mean necessarily that it's just women, you know, running nature. It means Mother Nature is another word for earth. Okay, it takes a more feminine form in that case. Okay, so it is obvious that all people, I don't know the exact reason why men took the precedent in this particular part of the English language. That may be a question you give for your English teacher. I don't know the foundations of English language, but it is, the intention was all people. It is obvious that all people are endowed by their creator. Now, this is another part where they kind of incorporate God into it, what they're basically saying is, whether you believe in religion or you believe in God or not, you are basically just saying that you have certain things that you are born with. It's obvious that all people are born with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable means that you can't get rid of them. You can't take them away. Are born with certain rights that no one, including the king, including the church, can take away. Such as life. And instead of liberty, we'll say freedom. And the pursuit of happiness. Meaning no one can take away your life. No one should be able to take away your freedoms, okay, unless you do something wrong, commit a crime, right? Then you go to jail, different situation. And the pursuit of happiness. No one should try and stop you from being happy with who you are as a person. This was written in 1776, yet is still very powerful today. And again, I'm going to ask the question you guys will probably answer very quickly. Who did Thomas Jefferson steal this idea from? John Locke. Instead of the social contract theory now, he's stealing the idea of natural rights. And I don't want to say stealing. He's just taking his teachings, just like you guys would throughout your life, and going to use them to their benefit. Yeah, Emanuela, that's a really good question. What about the death penalty? Maybe that does go against the Declaration of Independence. Maybe that does go against taking away life. Same thing with abortion, right? Maybe that goes against taking away life. That's the controversial thing. But the argument will be, like for the death penalty, if someone is taking away someone else's life, then maybe they don't have the right to life anymore. So it's a really complicated topic. That's a really good question. I'm really impressed with that. All right. So why does Jefferson go after the rights part, right? Because he's going against King George. Basically, the whole idea was King George was the one that gave you your rights. The government is the one that is giving you your rights. But Jefferson's saying that no, government doesn't give us our rights. Government's supposed to protect our rights. They're supposed to make sure they're giving us freedom. They're supposed to make sure they're not taking away our life. So this line is extremely powerful. Right. King George is not the all-knowing creature that is going to give you the rights. Your rights are inalienable. They're not to be taken away, and they're yours. This is the idea of natural rights. We talked about yesterday that there's something, no matter who you are, no matter what race you are, no matter what gender you are, it doesn't matter. You are all welcome to having those natural rights, and you yourself cannot take rights away from anyone else. All right? So you're going to continue this. And what you're going to notice is the Declaration of Independence is going to go through some different things throughout the document. So you have 8 documents here. All you need to do is finish documents 3 and 4, okay? You're going to do 5, 6, 7, 8. You're going to have the first 12 minutes of class tomorrow. Those aren't as hard. You should be able to do them, and then we will kind of go over them. The second half of class, and I'm trying to see when I see you guys. I see you either first period tomorrow or sixth period tomorrow. The second half of class will be watching an oversimplified video, which is going to go into the start of the Revolutionary War a little bit. So it's some work with this, some into a oversimplified video, and then we go from there. Okay, so you have about 10 minutes left. Okay, all I need is the first. All I need is the first 4 done. Okay, and then I'll give you like the first 10 to 12 minutes of class tomorrow to do 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? Are there any questions? Just write them in the chat. Oh, last thing. Do not turn anything in today. Okay, you will be turning in this assignment tomorrow. So please do not turn this in. You're just going to waste your time. Okay, because I'm not going to look at it, and then I'm going to have to go back. And as you see, I have to do here. Look at all of this annoyance. I got to send this back to Sean. Sean, if you're here, shame on you. And I got to send this back to Christian. Christian, shame on you if you're here. And I noticed that there's only 46 people here, so some people are missing. I know 1 or 2 people might have a Wi-Fi issue. Guys, I cannot say this enough. If you are not here for the mini lessons, if you're not here for the explanations, for the notes, you're going to fail the class. If you just say, you know what, he posted the assignment, I'm just going to do the assignment and get 100. The amount of percentage points that you get for classwork compared to your tests and compared to the Regents you take in June is so minuscule, you don't need to, you almost like, you're smart. 85% of the grade in this class is from the tests and quizzes and from the Regents exam. You could hypothetically not do any work, any of the classwork, any of the homework, and still pass the class. You could still get an 85 in the class. Doing the classwork helps you do well on the test. So I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just use your brain. Okay, most of the information you're going to get for the test is from the mini lessons and from some of the classwork, but mostly from the mini lessons. So please keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to shut up so you can concentrate. And then, again, don't turn this in. You'll turn it in tomorrow. All right, thank you, and I'll mute myself.